Welcome to episode 2 of the Dugout Report with host Alec. Today on the show is my season predictions in the second half of my prospect rankings, as well as my predictions for the Rays for the 2026 season. So let's jump right in without any further ado. And we start with my AL East predictions for the 2026 season. And for finishing in last place in the AL East, I have the Baltimore Orioles going 76-89. Orioles fans, I understand you're not going to be happy with that, but there's a reason. Yes, you did add Pete Alonso, which could give you more than 76 wins, but you're pitching. What kind of Shane Baz are you going to get? As a Rays fan, I can tell you Shane Baz is a good pitcher, but he has his inconsistencies. Whether it be he has one good game and then he has a stretch of bad games, then he clicks back in and he's good again, but then he goes on another bad stretch. So, in the Orioles, they already have some injury issues. Jackson Holliday's on the injured list, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for. So that is why I have the Orioles in last place. In fourth place is another team that their fan base is not going to like me. It is the New York Yankees. Yankees fans, and I've already seen it, they're already saying the Yankees are going to be in the World Series and they're going to win the AL East. I have the Yankees, personally, in my opinion, going 82-79. We don't know. Garrett Cole is going to be back this year. We don't know what kind of Garrett Cole we're going to get. And the Yankees really didn't do anything in the offseason to make, other than, obviously bringing back Cody Bellinger. But, and I need to have, before I get to 3-1 in the AL East, I need to have a little discussion here with Brian Cashman. Why isn't Spencer Jones on the opening day roster for the Yankees? The kid mashed during the spring. He was hitting nukes. You know Giancarlo Stanton's going to get hurt at some point. It's a foregone conclusion that Stanton will get hurt at some point during the season. Why isn't Spencer Jones on the opening day roster? At third place in the AL East, I have the Rays going 86-67. I wanted to give the Rays more wins, but we've already seen it. They already have two guys on the injured list, one being Gavin Lux and one being Ryan Pepio. And I can't see the Rays getting that 90-win threshold unless they have no more injuries, which, from experience, we know that's probably not going to happen. But I do like, this is another year for Junior Caminero, and you'll see how many home runs I have him hitting later on. And you may also see him in the awards section. But I do like how they have a mixture of a couple. Right now, there's two young guys in the rotation, in Joe Boyle and, well, not really young, but you got Drew Rasmussen, you got Joe Boyle, you got Nick Martinez, Steven Matz, and Shane McClanahan. And the bullpen's kind of iffy right now. Uceda's, I'm not going to say injured, but he had an up and down spring. And then you got Yoendrys Gomez, who's probably going to act as a swing guy. And then top prospect Carson Williams, who I'm going to talk about later on in the show, is on the opening day roster. So that's why I have the Rays finishing third. In second place in the AL East, I have the Boston Red Sox going 92-76. Yes, I understand they lost Alex Bregman, but they added Ranger Suarez. They added Sonny Gray. They added Johan Oviedo. I like the moves the Red Sox did make. And they have one of the best rotations in baseball. They will finish second place. Now, Marcelo Meyer is going to be on the opening day roster as the shortstop as the second baseman for the Red Sox. Alex Cora announced it the other day. In first place in the American League East, I have the defending American League champion Toronto Blue Jays going 93-74. I like what the Blue Jays did in the offseason. They signed Dylan Cease, Trey Savage. Yes, he's starting the year on the injured list, but he will be back at some point. And I think that Trey Savage is going to be an X factor for the Blue Jays this year in their rotation. Now we get to the AL Central. And in fifth place in the AL Central, I have the Minnesota Twins going 65-99. Now, I know there's people that have put the Twins in first place, which is just it's asinine. Look at everybody they've traded. They have traded a few guys. No, they have not traded anybody, but I don't trust. They have a new front office. They have a new manager in Derek Shelton. I think they're going to end up trading some guys at the deadline, and one of them might be Joe Ryan. And I think Byron Buxton will waive his no-trade clause to go to a contender. And at fourth place in the AL Central, I have the Chicago White Sox going a shocking 78-94. Yes, I think the White Sox finished with less than 100 losses this year, ladies and gentlemen. That's a shocker. They added Munetaka Murakami, which nobody saw coming. And it's year two under Will Venable, which we saw at the end of last year that the White Sox, they were turning a corner. Braden Montgomery's going to be up this year. Noah Schultz is going to be up this year. Hagen Smith might be up this year. In third place in the AL Central, I have the Kansas City Royals going 87-73. And I like the upgrades they made in the outfield. Jack Caglione's going into his sophomore year. He was a rookie last year. He struggled. But I smell a year two breakout for Jack Caglione. And the pitching, Cole Reagans, if he can stay healthy, he might be a sleeper, deep sleeper for the Cy Young. But don't put all your chips into Tarek Skubal because there's going to be other guys. Maybe Garrett Crochet wins the Cy Young. In second place in the AL Central, I have the Cleveland Guardians going 90-72. And I personally, I can see the Guardians getting more than 90 wins, but I can also see them finishing with exactly 90 wins. They didn't really do a lot. They do need big years from CJ Kayfus, Chase DeLauder, George Valera. And maybe we see Daniel Espino come up at some point to pitch out of the bullpen or maybe be a starter. And winning the AL Central, going 98-73 is the Detroit Tigers. I love the moves they made in the offseason. Bringing back Justin Verlander on a one-year deal. Bringing in Framber Valdez. And bringing up a top prospect. And a guy I'm going to talk about later in my prospect rankings, and Kevin McGonigal. I think the Tigers are primed for a deep run in the playoffs. Now we get to the American League West, finishing last place in the American League West, going 77-98. I have the Los Angeles Angels. It pains me. I'm a huge Mike Trout fan. The Angels need to get Artie Moreno. You need to get rid of Mike Trout. You need to. you need to trade him. I don't care if he said he wants to stay there. You need to get rid of him. You need to get something back for Trout before his value diminishes to the point where it's going to be pennies on a dollar when you trade him. But I do like the moves the Angels have made, though, in the offseason, getting Josh Lowe, bringing in a couple veterans, finishing fourth in the American League West, and I'm going to get some grief for this. I have the Houston Astros going 84-78. Yes, you got Correa back. Altuve's still there. Jeremy Pena, even though he fractured his hand in the WBC, he is on the opening day roster as a shortstop. I do like that they bring in Tatsuo Imai, and they've also made a couple other. The problem with them is they have a log jam in the infield. They have too many infielders for not enough spots. And one of those infielders is Isaac Paredes. And Paredes, I feel like will be traded at some point to somebody. I don't know who. Finishing a third in the American League West, I have the Athletics going 86-76. I think this is the year. They played really well at the end of last year in 2025. 2026 is the year for the Athletics to make a breakthrough and maybe make the playoffs. I do have two teams out of this division getting into the playoffs. Finishing second in the American League West, I have the Texas Rangers going 90-83. I like the trade for Mackenzie Gore. I like that they got off the Marcus Semien contract. And now that's the Mets' problem. But there is still some glaring holes. Third base with Josh Young. Are you going to get an improved Josh Young this year? Or is it going to be the same Josh Young you had last year? And winning the AL West, going 97-74, I have the Seattle Mariners. People call me crazy. I think the Mariners win this division again. If I would have done this last month, I probably would have had the Rangers winning this division before the Brendan Donovan trade. Now I have Seattle winning it because Brendan Donovan's going to be his third. You pegged Brendan Donovan to be your third baseman. Second baseman is probably Cole Young. Who knows who the shortstop's going to be? Maybe Ryan Bliss because J.P. Crawford's out. Now we get to my playoff predictions. The wild card round. I've got the 3 seed, the Boston Red Sox, and the 6 seed, Athletics. I have the Red Sox sweeping the Athletics in the wild card series. And in an upset, the 4 seed, Tampa Bay Rays, lose to the 5 seed, Detroit Tigers. The Tigers sweep the Rays to move on to the ALDS and face. So the 5 seed Tigers face the 1 seed Blue Jays. And the 1 seed Blue Jays win in 5. The Mariners, the 2 seed, face the 3 seed Boston Red Sox, and the 2 seed Mariners go on to the ALCS to face the Blue Jays as the Mariners win in 4 games. So we get a rematch of the ALCS from last season, and the result is the same. The Blue Jays win the American League pennant in 7 games. Now we get to the National League Central, and we start with 5th place in the St. Louis Cardinals. And I have the Cardinals going 77-100. I was getting them mixed up with the Twins. The Cardinals are the team that did a lot of trading this offseason. Wilson Contreras, which I forgot to say with the Red Sox. So Contreras, Sonny Gray, Arenado, Brendan Donovan. That's 4 guys that the Cardinals traded. And yes, you're going to see J.J. Weatherholt later on in the show in my prospect rankings. He did make the opening day roster. But I don't think that's going to change much for the Cardinals. 4th place in the National League Central, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates going 86-72. I love the move the Pirates made in the offseason, adding Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn, Marcelo Zuna, Jose Urquidy. And I think this is the year the Pirates do make the wild card. Third place is the Milwaukee Brewers. I have them going 91 and 78. I'm done undervaluing the Brewers. I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson the last 3 years, trying to discredit and undervalue the Brewers. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it this year. They will win more than 90 games. Second place in the NL Central, I have the Cincinnati Reds going 92 and 75. There's no way the Reds are missing the playoffs. I'm going to put it that way. And in first place, I have the Chicago Cubs going 95 and 77. Now we get to the National League Central, the National League East. Last place, and fifth, I have the Nationals going 77 and 99. I can't see them winning more than 77 games. Fourth place, I have the Miami Marlins. And you're going to say I'm delusional and crazy. I am not a Marlins fan. These are just predictions. I think the Marlins go 86 and 75 this year and make the playoffs. Maybe. Because in third place, I have the Atlanta Braves going 92 and 86. But I only have two teams in this division making the playoffs. And that's the top two teams, the Phillies and the Mets. Which the Mets I have going 93 and 86. And I have the Phillies winning the division at 96 and 84. And we get to the National League West to finish off this portion. And in last place, of course, I have the Colorado Rockies, but you see, I don't have them losing 100 games. I have them losing less than 100 games. I think they go 77 and 96. And here's why. I like the young talent. They're going to have Chase Dollander pitching out of the bullpen to start the year because he struggled as a starter last year. Fourth place, I have the San Francisco Giants going 86 and 74, and there's one reason. New manager, Tony Vitello. First year as the manager, coming up from college baseball and the Tennessee Vols. Third place, in the NL West, I have the Arizona Diamondbacks going 90 and 82. They're going to get Corbin Burns back at some point this year. The Jordan Lawler experiment might be over as soon as the end of the first week of the season. They're trying him in the outfield, which, okay, let's see how that works. Second place in the NL West, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers going 96 and 73. And here's why I don't have the Dodgers first place. Because they already have injuries to their rotation. Blake Snell's going to be out for a little bit. And yes, they do. They have a gluttony of talent in AAA that they can just call up. Like Emmett Sheehan's going to be in the starting rotation. But the issue is how much of their starting rotation will be there at the end of the year and in the playoffs. And Ohtani, this is his first full year back to pitching after Tommy John surgery. So you got to think they're going to have him maybe on an innings limit. And winning the NL West, I'm doing it. I have the San Diego Padres going 96 and 66. Yes, they didn't make any sexy moves during the offseason, but I still think they have a chance of winning this division. And now the wild card. So the wild card, I have the Dodgers and Padres. And I have the Dodgers and Pirates, correction. So the 3-seed Dodgers and the 6-seed Pirates. And I have the Pirates. I have the Dodgers sweeping the Pirates in the wild card round. Then you get the 4 and the 5, which is the Reds and Phillies. And I have the Phillies getting upset by the Reds. The NLDS, that sets up. That sets up a Cubs and Reds National League Division Series. And I have the Cubs winning, sweeping the Reds in 3 games. Because in the NLDS, all you need to win is 3 games. And then I have the 2-seed Padres and the 3-seed Dodgers. And I have the 2-seed Padres going on to the NLCS to face the 1-seed Cubs. And I think the Padres, the 2-seed San Diego Padres, win the NLCS in 7 games to get to the World Series to face the Blue Jays. And I have the Blue Jays winning the World Series in 7 games. So there's your World Series right there. Now, my awards, American League and American League Manager of the Year. This one was a little hard for me, but I ended up going Mark Kotsay of the Athletics. If the Athletics get in the playoffs this year, there's no question that Mark Kotsay is going to win Manager of the Year. AL Cy Young, this one was when I did it on my other show with Brad, I had a different answer, but I went with chalk this time. I went Tarek Skubal because he won it last year. I think Skubal wins the Cy Young again this year. AL Rookie of the Year, Kevin McGonigal from the Tigers. AL MVP, I have Junior Caminero of the Rays. AL Reliever of the Year, Garrett Whitlock of the Boston Red Sox. And AL Comeback Player of the Year, as much as I despise the Yankees, give me Garrett Cole to be the AL Comeback Player of the Year. NL Awards. And we start with Manager of the Year. It's going to have to be Don Kelly. If the Pirates make the playoffs, you can't tell me somebody else is going to win that award. NL Cy Young, I wanted to be different. Because I know everybody's going to pick Paul Skeens. I went with Chris Sale. NL Rookie of the Year, Connor Griffin of the Pirates. NL MVP, everybody's going to say Ohtani. Everybody's going to say Soto. So I decided I'm going to be different. Give me Paul Skeens for NL MVP. NL Reliever of the Year, Edwin Diaz of the Dodgers. And it feels weird saying Dodgers next to Edwin Diaz because I'm so used to him being on the Mets. But as we know, the Dodgers have all the money in the world, so they can do whatever they want. And NL Comeback Player of the Year is going to be Jared Jones of the Pirates. Now we get to my predictions for the Rays. Home run leaders. I have Junior Caminero with 50 and Jonathan Aranda with 34. Stolen base leaders. Carson Williams with 30 and Chandler Simpson with 48. Runs batted in leaders. Junior Caminero with 104. Yandy Diaz with 89. You're noticing a theme here. Batting average leaders. Jonathan Aranda, 340 average. 320 for Yandy Diaz. Pitching wins leaders. Shane McClanahan with 14 and Ryan Pepiot with 12 wins. I still think Pepiot will get 12 wins, even though he's going to be out for a little bit. Saves leaders, Edward Usato with 14 and Hunter Biggie with 10. Earn run average leaders. I have Ryan Pepiot at 289 and a 280 for Nick Martinez. Strikeout leaders, 198 for Ryan Pepiot and 178 for Steven Matz. And my record prediction for the Rays, as you saw earlier, is 86 and 67. Now we get to my prospects, 56 to 49. At number 56, I have Eli Willits of the Nationals, who was just the top pick last year. And yes, this is high for a kid that's only 19 years old. But believe me, I think he will be up in the big leagues within the next 2 years. You got Peyton Tolley, left-handed pitching prospect for the Red Sox, at number 55. 54 is left-handed pitcher from the Mariners, pitching prospect Kate Anderson. So back to Tolley for a second. He got a little taste in the big leagues last year, and he was okay. And then back to Kate Anderson. There was talks he might break camp this year with the Mariners, but obviously they decided to send him back to minor league camp. At 53, we got Ethan Holiday, shortstop for the Rockets. He will be up at some point within the next, I'm going to say, 2 years. 52, and I'm surprised this kid didn't make the Yankees opening day roster because they need a shortstop because Anthony Volpe is recovering from shoulder surgery. George Lombard Jr. And Lombard had a really good spring, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at some point this year. 51, Jamie Arnold, left-handed pitcher for the Athletics, pitching prospect. This is his first full year of pro ball, and I can see him because the A's like to rush their prospects, which works sometimes. Like it worked last year with Nick Kurtz. Can it work with Jamie Arnold? I think it can. At number 50, we have Brewers shortstop, second base, outfield prospect Jet Williams, who was acquired in the Freddie Peralta trade. I think we see Jet Williams at some point this year. At number 49, we have right-handed pitching prospect for the Chicago Cubs, Jackson Wiggins. He's another guy that we could see this year at some point for the Cubs because we know that their rotation just can't quite stay healthy. 48 through 39. At number 48, we got Billy Carlson, shortstop prospect for the White Sox. And the White Sox, this is their second prospect you've heard me talk about. You will hear two more guys' names later on in the program. But Billy Carlson's a young, I think he's 18 or 19 years old, shortstop prospect. That's a little bit ways away from the big leagues, but I think he has the potential to be a really good shortstop. 47, Theo Gillen, outfielder, Tampa Bay Rays. And Theo Gillen, this is the highest prospect, second highest prospect, third highest prospect from the Rays on my board, on my prospect list. Theo Gillen was in Double-A and Triple-A last year for the Rays. I think he comes up some point this year if the Rays just have a gluttony of injuries in the outfield and they need somebody to play games in the outfield. I think he comes up. At number 46, we got Cooper Ingold, catching prospect for the Guardians. And Guardians, this is the first of two prospects on this list. I like the intangibles for Cooper Ingold. And I think you could see him this year at some point, maybe. 45, Steel Hall, shortstop prospect for the Cincinnati Reds. Young guy, he was in, I believe, rookie ball last year. He's quite a bit of ways away from the big leagues. 44, we got right-handed pitching prospect from the Rays, Brody Hopkins. Brody Hopkins impressed in the spring. He is another guy that I think the Rays want to delay his big league clock, service time, but he will be up at some point this year. At number 43, we got Johnny Formello, outfield prospect for the Mariners. 42 is outfield prospect that made the opening day roster for the Baltimore Orioles, Dylan Beavers. 41 is Ryan Waldschmidt, outfield prospect for the Diamondbacks, who I believe also made the opening day roster. And here's that second of three White Sox prospects. No, three out of four White Sox. The third White Sox prospect, Noah Schultz, left-handed pitcher from the Chicago White Sox, pitching prospect. He struggled with command in the minors last year, but I think at some point this year you will see him on the big league club. And at number 39, we've got Josue Briseño, catcher and first base prospect for the Tigers. The Tigers, you'll see one of their prospects in a little while on the prospect list that did make the opening day roster. I don't think this guy's that far away from being on the big league club. 38 through 29, we start at number 38 with Chase DeLauder, outfield prospect for the Guardians, who did make their opening day roster. And I will be doing another prospect rankings list mid-season. So if you see prospects out here that did make the opening day roster, don't worry. When I do this at the mid-season mark, they will not be on the prospect list. But back to Chase DeLauder. He got some time in the big leagues at the end of last year for the Guardians. Him and George Valera, they were both on the playoff roster. At 37, we've got Lazaro Montes of the Mariners, outfield prospect. 36, Cooper Pratt, shortstop prospect for the... Let me make sure. I might have put him on there twice. I don't know. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't put Cooper Pratt on the list twice. I did. That is on me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. We get the 35, Harlan Susana, right-handed pitching prospect for the Nationals. 34, Arjun Amalas, shortstop prospect for the Blue Jays. 33, Carson Bidge, Mets outfield prospect who did make the opening day roster. 32, Rhett Lauder, right-handed pitching prospect for the Reds. Tyler Brimmer, right-handed pitching prospect for the Angels. Kim Caminiti at 30. Left-handed pitching prospect for the Braves. Kyson Weatherspoon, a right-handed pitching prospect for the Red Sox. Now we get to 20. 28 through 19. At 28, we have catching prospect for the Nationals, Harry Ford. 27, Mike Sirota, outfield prospect from the Dodgers. 26, because that was 27. 26, Kaylee Culpepper, shortstop prospect for the Twins. 25, JoJo Parker, a shortstop prospect for the Blue Jays. Bryce Renier is at 24, shortstop prospect for the Tigers. Liam Doyle, another Athletics left-handed pitching prospect. And the last of the White Sox prospects, at 22, Brandon Montgomery, outfield prospect for the White Sox. 21, Travis Sikora, right-handed pitcher for the Nationals. Pitching prospect for the Nationals. Outfield prospect for the Twins, Emmanuel Rodriguez at 20. Ryan Sloan, a right-handed pitching prospect from the Mariners. Number 18, Franklin Arias, shortstop prospect for the Red Sox. 17, Aiden Miller, shortstop prospect for the Phillies. 16, J.J. Weatherholt, Cardinals shortstop prospect who did make their opening day roster. 15, infield prospect for the Reds, Sal Stewart, who got a taste of the big leagues last year. and made the opening day roster this year as their first baseman. That was at 15. 14 is Mariners shortstop prospect Colt Emerson. 13, right-handed Phillies pitching prospect Andrew Painter, who made the opening day roster. 13, Samuel Basallo, catcher and first base prospect for the Orioles, who I believe also made their opening day roster. At 12 is At 11 is Jesus Mate, shortstop prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. Number 10 is Noel McLean, right-handed pitching prospect for the Mets, who did make their opening day roster. Number 9 is Bubba Chandler, right-handed pitcher for the Pirates, pitching prospect, of course. Did make their opening day roster. Now we get into the top 8. Outfield prospect for the Tigers, Max Clark, at number 8. He had a horrific spring, so they reassigned him to minor league camp. Leo DeVries tore the cover off the ball in spring for the Athletics. Shortstop prospect. I don't get why he's not on the opening day roster. At number 6, we got Walker Jenkins, outfield prospect for the Twins. 5, Thomas White, left-handed pitching prospect for the Marlins. 4, Travis Mazzata, second base prospect for the Guardians. 3, the opening day shortstop for the Tampa Bay Rays, Carson Williams. 2, he's on the opening day roster, Kevin McGonigal. And, of course, the number 1 prospect, Connor Griffin from the Pirates, shortstop prospect. And that is your prospect rankings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry that Cooper Pratt was on there twice. I could not find another prospect because I have certain guidelines I use for my prospect rankings. But I promise you, when I do that again mid-season, I won't have a guy ranked twice on the rankings. Please forgive me. But that does it for today's episode of the Dugout Report. I will see you with another Dugout Report episode probably next week. Have a wonderful rest of your opening day baseball.